Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. WildMax1 bringing another Raid Shadow Legends video. And today we're going to be doing a Chimera showcase based on a viewer request to use an all-epic team and try to push it as high as I can for a 1 key. So in today's video, this is the team that I put together. We were able to get just under 70 million damage on Brutal in order to one-chest it successfully. So today I'll be going over team building and why I decided to take these champions into Chimera with me. Then we're going to be going over key moments in the run. Finally, I'll be talking about rewards versus difficulty scaling in Chimera, and at the end we'll go over all the builds along with viable replacement champs. So let's get into it. And before I go diving right into the team, if anyone out there still is getting familiar with Chimera or veterans that need a refresher on the specific mechanics, I will be linking my full Chimera Clan Boss guide down in the video description. So as already mentioned, this was a challenge to create an epic team that was going to do the most possible damage and 1 key, the highest difficulty that it could in Chimera. So while this team is capable of completing some trials, this is by no means optimized for trials, and you'll see in the video I don't even pay attention to them, so it's just about surviving and doing damage. If you're interested in seeing a video where we create a team in order to tackle the most possible trials, let me know down in the comments below. So looking at the team, we see our speed lead and turn meter booster is Deacon. We have Whisper as our primary damage dealer. Geomancer as secondary damage dealer. We have Tagoar as our reviver. And we have Dazdurk as a cleanser and additional turn meter booster. In terms of goals, all we were trying to do was maximize damage here. So what I obviously wanted to do was bring the proper debuffs to maximize that and make sure that we just survive. So I went with the bare minimum in terms of what was necessary for completing Chimera mechanics. And the rest of it's all just focused on supporting Whisper and Geomancer, and to some extent also Deacon's damage. To sum up all the things that these champs bring to this team, I've got this little notepad right here. In terms of survivability, we brought Leech from Deacon and Dazdurk. We have Cleanse from Dazdurk. We have Shield from Tagoar. We have Decrease Accuracy and Buff Strip coming from our Geomancer. We've got Heals coming in from Tagoar and Dazdurk. And then we have Damage Reduction passives from Geomancer, and then for Tagoar, if any champion happens to fall below 50%. In terms of damage, we have Decreased Defense coming in from Deacon. We have Weaken coming in from both Whisper and Geomancer. We've got Turn Meter Boost from Deacon and Dazdurk, and then we have HP Burn from Geomancer, as well as Geomancer's Reflect Damage passive. The crucial things that I was missing that I really felt during the run, and I'll point them out when we actually look at it, were having block debuffs and then a decreased speed. So making sure that we maximize damage when there's only 65 boss turns, decreased speed is crucial for that. Unfortunately, while I could have made room for it with another champion, I was debating primarily between Dazdurk and Skatix. Skatix would have been providing me with that decreased speed as well as a cleanse and a heal, but I ended up going with the big turn meter boost from Dazdurk. Plus I found his heal was just more impactful for my team, so I ended up going with him. But if there was a way to squeeze on decreased speed, I absolutely would have. And finally, block debuffs, so helpful for the Ram, Viper, and Lion forms. Also forgot to mention the increased speed buff coming in from Tagoar, but just like turn meter boost, that can apply both to survivability and to damage. In terms of which of these are the most important and which I absolutely could not have done the run without, I would say Cleanse, number 1, Buff Strip, number 2, and then a significant source of healing coming in from either abilities or from Leech. Those were my MVPs for survivability. And then the passive damage reduction obviously helped quite a bit as well. And then in terms of maximizing damage, decreased defense, weaken, not really rocket science when it comes to that. You really want to make sure your damage dealers can hit as hard as possible on Chimera because of all that defense on the boss. So with that, let's jump right into the run. This is going to be pre-recorded, slightly sped up, and I'm just going to talk through some of the major moments here. So in terms of setup for the team, all we're looking to do is get all the crucial debuffs onto the boss. So I always wanted to have Leech up there, always wanted to have Geomancer's passive going at all times, and then I wanted to make sure decreased defense and Weaken were up there, not just because they're good for damaging the boss, but because of all the synergy with Whisper. As you saw there, Whisper's A3, if decreased defense and Weaken are both present on her target, will get an extra turn guaranteed, along with all the other extra turns that she can get from her kit. Really great champion, and she is my primary damage dealer. The decreased accuracy the Geomancer can put on the boss is not a guaranteed chance, but when he did land it, it was extremely helpful. My champions are obviously empowered, and some of them have very high awakenings, and we also have the Faction Guardians maxed out for all of them, so they did have a significant amount of resistance on them. Along with the decreased accuracy on the boss, they were able to resist during some key moments, which really helped with survivability as well. There you see all of the available debuffs that this team can bring, all up on the boss. In terms of abilities that I use reactionary as opposed to just keeping them on cooldown, always want to make sure that you have cleanse and heal available from Dazdurk. That was my emergency heal and my cleanse as well. For the most part, if we just saw a decreased speed or something like that coming in, just a couple of debuffs, nothing that was absolutely devastating, I just saved his cleanse as an emergency. I was constantly using Tagoar's A2, which provides a little bit of a heal, but also puts up increased speed pretty much on cooldown throughout the fight. And then the only other one that I saved because I kept it reactionary was Geomancer's A2 if the boss happened to pick up increased speed, which the ultimate form does do, and ultimate form was where I was able to get the majority of my damage. So I really want to make sure that my team has as much time on this form to do damage as possible. So here we've skipped ahead. We've transitioned to Ram form already. As you can see, Geomancer is in the middle of the duel. That was intentional. I wanted to make sure that he was going to be the one being put in the duel because I wanted to have my healers, my reviver, and my damage dealers be available for everything else. Geomancer is not really crucial on this form. The way you ensure that that happens is by having him be the lowest crit damage champion. Now, the one thing that I wanted to do here, and I wanted to make sure that it was up, is Leech. Leech is going to be crucial for making sure that Whisper and Deacon also can stay alive during the Ram form, but more crucially, Whisper here. As you can see, I'm not shying away from using my A2, increasing my crit damage, and getting increased attack on Whisper. As long as Leech was up, Whisper was leeching enough, especially while under 50% HP with Tagoar's passive, in order to stay alive on the Ram form for this difficulty. So I was not afraid of getting a little bit of extra damage on her as long as that Leech was up. So at this point, one of the things that I'm doing is watching out for that A2 cooldown of the Ram form. Obviously, you can see up there is one turn left, so it's coming out right now, and that is the one that applies all the really annoying debuffs. So I made sure to save Dazdurk's A3, which is my cleanse, for this specific moment. Now, this is one of the places where I really did miss having block debuffs. I'll miss it even more later on in Lion form and in Viper form, but again, I just found that I was getting better numbers with Dazdurk. Having a 25,000 AoE heal on demand was more impactful for me, and having that increased turn meter and increased attack was also really, really nice. Coming up next, we're going to have the transition to the Lion form. That's going to be by far the most dangerous form, the one that I had the most trouble with on any of the difficulties. When you get to Nightmare against that form, that's when the damage really starts to ramp up. But even on Brutal here, quite a bit of damage coming in, especially onto that Hunter's Gaze target. My advice is whatever team you're going to have to tackle this boss with, when Hunter's Gaze goes out, absolutely cleanse it off right away. I know that there's a reactionary A1 that comes out from the Lion form upon cleansing it, as you just saw, but that deals far less damage and you risk far less than keeping that on one of your champions. Now, for the Lion form, this is when you want to have shield up or something to protect your team, any kind of survivability, strengthen, whatever you have in terms of survivability buffs, this is when you're going to need it. Lion form just does so much damage. I'll do a quick little video of one of my failed runs earlier where the Lion just absolutely decimated my team out of nowhere. Skipping ahead now to the Viper form transition. Damage coming out, buffs getting stolen, and the poisons going out. So for that, once again, you want to make sure you have a good cleanse and heal ready for your team. And then in case you do end up having some really potentially dangerous buffs like an increased attack stolen, make sure you have some way to either strip it off or steal it back, as Geomancer does right here by stripping it off. And the rest of the form is pretty simple. If you do fall behind on this form, it is pretty brutal. On higher difficulties, when I tried this team, somebody ended up going down from the damage, and Tagoar ended up not being able to be sufficient as the only reviver because of the high cooldown on his A3. So I ended up trying to do that team with 2 revivers, and it still wasn't enough because all we needed was more damage mitigation, but it ended up just being too much for that specific team for that difficulty. So here you see how troublesome this form can be. So we have our Dazdurk petrified. He is our cleanser. Right now, we have no chance to do that. So all that we are hoping to do is to be able to outrun some of these buffs, so then we can start to heal up using that Leech and using Tagoar's A2. But this was probably the closest that I came to failing the run right here. Luckily, we got some magic happening here with the Tagoar surviving, and then we had a quick follow-up with Dazdurk's A3 that then let us save the run. But you see how close this was even on Brutal. So when I was trying this on Nightmare, there was absolutely no shot of this being a success. There was far too much damage going out, and my team was absolutely getting annihilated. Just vicious damage from the Viper and Lion forms against my all-epic squad in Nightmare. But it wasn't all bad news with the run either. We had some really great moments. Right here coming up, you're about to see a prolonged Whisper combo. This is really what the champ is known for, is this Energizer Bunny style, just one after the other, resetting, extra turns coming in, extra turns off the A3 guaranteed, proccing them off the A1 and A2, and just doing tons of damage right here. I'm not counting how many that was, but that contributed significantly to that damage total. As you can see, we are outpacing right now 1 million damage per boss turn, which is really good. For this boss specifically, all we need is about 550,000 per boss turn, so we were significantly outpacing the damage necessary in order to one-key Brutal, thanks to actions like we just saw from Whisper. And here we are towards the very, very end, the last couple turns here for the Chimera. One more hit, one more counterattack, and there it is. Just under 70 million, as we saw initially from the intro. Team did very well. There were a couple of very hairy moments, as we saw, especially on that Viper form. And I'm going to show you some bonus footage right now from one of my failed runs, just to see how much damage Lion form can really do. Overall, I was very happy with how the team performed, just in terms of pure damage. MVPs, definitely Whisper, Geomancer, and Dazdurk. For this one, I really appreciated how huge that AoE heal was. But if we did have him replaced with somebody that brought a block debuffs, it could have made it so that that heal wouldn't have even been necessary at certain parts. So now let's take a look at that bonus footage of the Lion destroying my team. So here we go, transitioning into it. Hunter's Gaze going out on my Geomancer. As you can see, we're on the 46th turn, and our damage isn't as good as it was in the other run, so maybe a good thing that this run ended up being a fail. We wouldn't have hit as high of a number. But you're going to see here, I choose not to cleanse. Hunter's Gaze is up. I choose not to cleanse because I know that there's going to be an A1 in response. I had just been doing higher difficulty, so I really respected that A1. But on Brutal, it's more manageable, so I leave it up. Crucial mistake. We see there, he ends up taking out my Geomancer because of all that extra damage coming through from the Hunter's Gaze. Then the rest of my team gets decimated, Reviver's down, and it's just Deacon and Dazdurk holding down the fort. They're not going to last much longer either. So this was an example of how much damage Lion can do. Absolutely make sure you have some survivability up for this form. So now let's talk a little bit about the rewards in Chimera versus the scaling in terms of difficulty. So when we're talking about hard, brutal, nightmare, ultra nightmare, obviously the higher you go, the better the rewards are. Nightmare, for example, once you get that top chest, that's when you start getting those guaranteed legendary crafting materials. In hard and in brutal, however, you're maxing out at epics. You get significantly more in the master chest for brutal, and you're also going to have a much easier time fusing your Empress if you're getting the top chest in brutal as opposed to just hard. Now, in terms of the trials, which again wasn't the primary focus of this team, but in hard, you can still earn some legendary crafting materials, some very difficult specific requirements for them, but you can earn them technically. And then there's a couple of more opportunities to do that from the trials in brutal. So in terms of the rewards from one or the other, fairly comparable. Again, it's just going to be about the number of crafting materials that you get and also the ease with which you're going to be able to fuse Empress, who is an absolutely game-changing champion. And when I say fairly comparable, I mean between hard and brutal, because obviously Nightmare is going to be a significant step up in terms of difficulty and also in terms of the rewards you're going to be getting. In order to illustrate that better, I've put together this notepad that shows just a couple of key stats to follow when you're going to be looking at either hard, brutal, or nightmare difficulty and deciding what your team is going to be able to tackle. So the Lion form, obviously, in my opinion, the most dangerous form on Chimera. When you're looking at its attack, in hard difficulty, you're at 7.7k. For brutal, 12.1k. And for nightmare, 18k. Significant jumps from one to the other. In terms of accuracy requirements for hard, you need 275 for the Ram form, Brutal, 325, and in Nightmare, another jump by 100 to 425. In terms of the last key, in terms of the damage needed for hard difficulty, 20.5 million. That means per boss turn with 65 boss turns, you have to be averaging 316,000 damage. In Brutal, 550,000, and in Nightmare, 1.3 million damage. As you saw from my run, I was averaging just over maybe 1.05 million per boss turn. I was squeezing that pretty hard. I had some really nice combos with Whisper, and I'm still nowhere close to being able to get that 1.3 million damage necessary for the Nightmare difficulty. That's not even mentioning the fact that my team wasn't able to survive because of how much damage all the different forms were doing on Nightmare. So in terms of an all-epic team and its viability in Chimera, I think that that is going to be capped out at Brutal difficulty unless you're really going to go through a lot of runs, and it's going to be very time-consuming and painful trying to get that done on Nightmare. If you have a team in mind that you think can reliably tackle this and one-key it, please let me know down in the comments below and give me a suggestion, and I would love to try it. Kicking off our builds for the team, we have Deacon Armstrong, our turn meter booster, speed lead, and decreased defense champion. If you're looking to replace Deacon, if you don't have him, Ugo would be a great option. Ugo also brings the decreased defense and also would bring something valuable like a heal. And if you're looking to replace the turn meter boost aspect of him, you can try somebody like a Mordecai. Now, looking at his total stats, we have him built in lethal and some odd pieces of merciless and stone skin. Total stats are here. You need nowhere near that much accuracy for Brutal, but again, I was testing this out on Nightmare initially. Have him with an Arethi Coronet just to stack up his damage a little bit across the encounter. Cruelty Blessing, and here are his masteries. If you'd like to see a Deacon guide on my channel, please let me know down in the comments below. The reviver for our team was Tagoar. He also brought some increased speed. So if you're looking to replace him as a reviver, you could go with a lot of different champions. You could even go with a Rector Drath if you wanted to. That way you could bring some decreased attack to the team as well as some perfect veil and some heals. And in terms of his speed boost, you could go with another reviver with a speed boost like Old Hermit Yorg, for example, who brings not a speed boost, but a turn meter, effectively doing the same thing and also bringing a revive. So in terms of how we have Tagoar built, 9-piece protection. Here are his stats. He is holding a demonic effigy, didn't even bother upgrading it. Cruelty Blessing once again. And then here are Tagoar's masteries. And if you'd like to see a Tagoar guide on my channel, please let me know down in the comments below. Our cleanser, healer, and turn meter booster on the team is Runekeeper Dazdurk. If you don't have a Dazdurk, one of the champs that I actually already tested replacing him with, which worked to great effect, is Skathix, who also brings a cleanse, a heal, and in this case also a block debuffs, which would have been incredibly helpful. For total stats, here they are. And he is running in Relentless and Speed sets. For his relic, we have him with Journal of Necrotos for even more turn meter boost. Survival Instinct as Blessing, and I actually don't have any masteries on him, but if I did have masteries, I'd probably end up going for either Timely Intervention or with War Master just for a little bit more damage. And if you'd like to see a Dazdurk guide on my channel, please let me know. Our secondary damage dealer on the composition was Geomancer. Geomancer offered two things. He offered some survivability for the team with his passive, and he offered some decent damage. If you're looking to replace him as just a straight-up damage dealer, a lot of other really good options you could consider. One of the ones that comes to mind right away would be somebody like a Phoenix, offering no survivability for the team, but absolute nukes with that A1 and also a block buffs if you need one. And then in terms of the survivability, if you're only looking to increase survivability for your team, you could add somebody like a Vogoth, for example. So while if the boss attacks your team with Geomancer's passive, there's just straight up damage mitigation happening. But with Vogoth, when your team gets attacked, he would be healing your team. So instead of mitigating the damage, he'd be giving them health back that they lost. Kind of the same thing. So really up to you. So in terms of sets, we have him in 6 pieces of Impulse just for more A3s and A2s. Here are total stats. Once again, nowhere near that much accuracy needed. That was just what I had for Nightmare as well. We have him with a Golden Elixir. Cruelty Blessing, once again. here are his masteries. And I do have a Geomancer guide out on my channel. Encourage you to check that out if you'd like to see more. And last, certainly not least, is our main damage dealer for today's video, and that is Whisper. Whisper, once again, can be replaced by whatever damage dealer you have of your choice. Phoenix, another great option, one that I was considering, but Whisper, with that extra turn mechanic, I figured would just give me a higher ceiling for damage. Very happy with the performance. For the sets, went with Relentless and Cruel. For total stats, I have them right here. For Relic, went with a Perched Shadow for even more chances at extra turns. For Blessing, went with Phantom Touch. Here are Whisper's masteries, and I do have a Whisper guide out on my channel if you'd like to know how to build your Whisper for maximum damage. And there you have it, everybody, the official showcase for all Epic champions in Chimera, managing the 1-key Brutal with just under 70 million damage. If you enjoyed today's video, please consider liking and subscribing for more content like this in the future. Let me know down in the comments below if there's any other showcases or guides you'd like to see on my channel. Thank you for watching today's video. Thank you for your time. Have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next one.